The Writing Way with Amanda Nicholson and Andy N.
The Writing Way with Amanda Nicholson and Andy N.
Spoken
It was never my intention to kill anyone. I just wanted to form a support group of women where we could all complain about men. I thought we could meet for a coffee or something a little stronger, vent, then get on with our lives while feeling a little lighter. The idea for the group stemmed from a conversation with my best friend Emily after the latest incident of a man thinking he had the right to take up my personal space.
Death to All Men is a women's crime novel written by Amanda Nicholson. It follows Cassie as she tries to find an outlet to vent about men. One thing leads to another and she starts killing bad men. You can pre-order the book from paperback from websites like Amazon or Waterstones, or wherever you prefer to buy your e-books from.
Spoken Mate.
I know where and when exactly I died, almost as well as I know exactly when and where I was born. I know when the sun rose for the first time when I was placed in my mother's arms, and she looks at me amazed at the love that only a mother has. Like I know when was the last time I breathed out loud for the final time, and fell to the ground, knowing I was never going to walk through the meadows again with the sun on my back, let alone see my family or any of my friends ever again.
Death, Andy N's second full-length novel, is as much a sequel to his first novel, Birth, as facing the end of something else altogether. Speaking with the same raw honesty and poetic grace that defined Birth, Death is a book that builds an unforgettable narrative that explores the very fabric and the beauty of life and the acceptance of its inevitability and wherever it may lead to next. The book will be out on 14th of February 2025 and will be available on all of the usual platforms.
Spoken Mate.
Hi, my name is Andy N. Spoken Label, my author, artist and poetry podcast, was originally set up at the beginning of 2016 and now has a back catalogue of over approximately 500 episodes. We are always open to speaking to creative people, primarily in England. We will obviously go beyond that to Europe, maybe countries beyond that even, for the right sort of guest. Check out our back catalogue. It's available on all the usual networks, including Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, you name it, we're pretty well on there. And I'm always open to submissions through my email address, which is aen1mpo@yahoo.co.uk. The podcast itself is free and always will be a free podcast. I am, however, always open to donations, and that can be also through my email address as before. Do it through PayPal, okay? Like I said to you, this podcast is free, always will be free, and we are always open to other submissions. Enjoy.
Spoken Mate.
Amanda,
Andy,
what are we doing today?
we're doing a special crossover episode with Spoken Label and The Writing Way.
Now, obviously, you better tell people what spoken... I'll say what Spoken Label is. You said the writer, because it's going to get very confusing. Yeah. Spoken Label is an author-artiste podcast where we chat and we ramble constantly. Amanda, what is the writing
way? It explains itself, really. It's about writing.
And it rambles a lot. About. It rambles a lot as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. And also, Amanda, what else have you got to say today?
We've got a special guest with us.
Hi.
Who's hi?
I'm Courtney. I would say I'm autistic poet, published poet, a bit of an artist, a bit of a photographer, publishing anthologies, headlined many events in the Midlands and online, I guess. Forthcoming book coming out in 2026. I don't really know what else to say right now.
That's a great start. Okay, yeah. Now, obviously, it's Courtney Ward, to people who want just to clarify, of course. Now, Courtney is a wonderful young lady, and me and Amanda have really got to know this young lady this past year or so. It's always a pleasure talking to her. Now, this is something that I've not done before, certainly any kind of podcast format. First of all, people obviously know I've had 3 guests on Spoken Label before now. I've never done a triple header podcast where I'm talking about a book, a Amanda's going to talk book, and also Courtney's forthcoming book next year. So this could go off on a, not Amanda, do you reckon we'll go off on a tangent this quite a bit?
Yeah.
I think it will. Now, we're going to do, first of all can tell very briefly about our books that are either out or forthcoming very briefly. Mine first is Threads and Other Stories of Isolation. This is 20 short stories, or flash fiction really, set around the Guy Bridge area of East Manchester. Most of them are in a train station or on the outskirts of a train station, talking about people's lives.
Mine is called Beneath the Manchester Lights. And just to confuse people, it's not under my name, it's under the name Alicia Nicholls. So it's a second chance romance about a couple that have been together before and split up for reasons that you'll find out about in the book. And then it's a will they, won't they get back together again kind of thing, set around Christmas and a grotto.
Before we go on to Courtney, I better mention, seriously, I'll just jog my memory then. Mine's not under Andy N either, it's under A.E. Nicholson. I'll explain why.
My forthcoming poetry collection is stemmed from the topic of grief, and basically goes through the journey of how grief may represent, how I'm healing, how I'm growing as a person, kind of that aspect of stuff. So yeah, that's basically my book.
Right, now we do have a lot of questions that are going to be moving around today, but I'm going to let Courtney pick the first question out today, and I don't know what she's going to ask or who to.
So my first question of the podcast is for Amanda. I'm going to go for Amanda first. And I just want to ask, what made you want to write your book? Like, what inspired you to start writing it?
I've started writing it originally because I was submitting it to Mills and Boons because I wanted to get published by them. And I don't think I could really stay within like what they wanted because they seemed to like a strong female character, but not stronger than the male. And I don't think it turned out that way. So it ended up getting rejected and I just carried on writing it anyway.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, it's good. I'll ask you another question, Amanda, and you can pick who you want to pick on next then. Certainly, I think with your book, obviously, Under the Manchester Lights, I think the setting is vital in this book. I think the setting really brings this to life. How do you feel when you look back at the book now it's wrote? Do you think the setting was an important thing with this book?
Yeah, I wrote about the places that I know. So I think one character lives in Stretford and another lives in Crumpsall. I don't know if I mentioned the places, but those are the places I was thinking of when I wrote it. And then when I described the shopping centre, I was thinking of the Trafford Centre, but I didn't actually name that.
Right, Amanda, who are you going to pick on first?
Okay, so I'm going to ask Courtney, how long did it take you to write the poems in your book?
I started in 2023. So over the last 2 years, I've been adding poems to the collection. And yeah, because I kind of wanted it to see how much I've grown and how much I've changed. And I think to see that change happen, it would be not a few months or years. So that's why, yeah, I'm still writing little bits now, even now. So yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. I think with your book itself, you said already it's just a book of a journey and a change for you. At what stage did you realise you were actually writing a poetry book?
Last year, and I think what prompted that was someone I know from working with Writing East Midlands, and they like are the editor for Five Leaves Poetry based in Nottingham, and they said, "Oh, if you have a chat book happening, like in the works, you can enter this competition to see, like, to be published." And I think that's when I started. Okay, the poems are being together and stuff, and I think that's what made it come together in the first place. Like everything that I was writing in that time, I think that pushed it to get it officially started, as they say. So yeah.
Okay, who's your next question for?
I am gonna ask you a question now, Andy.
Oh dear.
And just something I noticed in your book was about like the okay, how do I put this? The diversity of people that are in your book, like the people that you write about and the stories that you write about. What made you want to do that?
Yeah, oh, blimey. The book itself, it's an accidental book, this really, because I should have been wrapping up novel three really by this stage, and it's not happened yet. But it was, if you ever look at when you're at a train station, you see a variety of people getting on the train if you do it every day like I do. And that's what
Mhm.
this book was, because you come across lots of little journeys. And I wanted to treat it like diversity for that reason, because you never know what's happening in someone else's life may be completely different to what you expect. And that was the point behind the whole book. It was looking at lots of little snapshots of people's lives.
Mhm.
And that's why. So, yeah, but it really was an accidental book, but it was great fun writing this. And my turn for a question now. Amanda,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you now a question. I want to next learn about you, Amanda, with this is what, um, how did this book compare? And I'm going to ask you about this compared to your last novel, which obviously under Amanda Nicholson. Now, people research Amanda Nicholson will discover her last novel was called Death to All Men. Because that itself, to jump from that book to this book, that's a heck of a jump. I don't think I could have done it. Courtney, could you have done that? Jumped from a book like that into a nice,
No.
cozy romance? So, first of all, there's 2 points to this. Was this a conscious decision? And how does it compare looking back at both the books now?
Well, when I was writing this, I was also writing my next full novel, which is going to be called Killing Tommy, which tells you what that might be about. So I think
Yeah.
I just took all my frustration out on the Killing Tommy book and did all the nicey nice stuff in Beneath the Manchester Lights.
Oh, what you like. Courtney, I'll just say, before we let Amanda ask the next question to whoever's going to ask, could you see yourself doing like a book in completely different genres like that?
Right now, I don't think I could right now. Like, yeah, because even my writing now is still kind of similar to before. Not similar, but like in the same sort of lingering area. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you don't know in the future, do you really? Like I said to you, writing itself is always a constant evolving process anyway. But my next book certainly is going that lingering manic or melodic depression from the court book, but beyond that, who knows? Right. Amanda, next question, please.
Okay, so my question is for you, Andy.
Oh dear.
Um, it, do you think that you could write another book that's similar to this, either following on from the characters or just going to somewhere completely different as a
Uh,
setting and having different characters?
there's 2 points of this one because my next novel's heading in a similar-ish direction because I'm in the middle of writing, well, a book about working in the court system at the moment. And there's a lot of characters in that. But that's going to be, I think it's got 16 stories currently lined up in it, but it's all in the same court building with a lot of the same characters interacting, but there's a central character in each book, each story, one of the 8 people. So that's similar to that. I learned a lot from doing this Fred's book. That's impacted that book. I do want to write a Fred's 2 as well, but this is going to be more in a sci-fi territory. Well, I've got one story called, where's it now? Global Warming on Other Forms of Lust at Guybridge Train Station 2040. So it didn't quite fit for Fred's that, did it? I don't think for some reason.
No, I can see why, yeah.
Right, okay. Courtney, I'm going to ask you another question now. Now, obviously, Courtney, obviously, your book itself, obviously, and I can't find a nice way of putting this because you've said already it's about the grief and the trauma yourself when you wrote this. It's like, when did you feel you were ready to start sharing the poems from this book to publicly?
I would say it was like last year as well, because I think for the first few months, like my headspace wasn't there. So obviously I wasn't in that position to be able to be like, okay, but must have been like last year
Yeah,
when I kind of felt my confidence was growing as well as my writing, because my writing I think kicked off more last year. So
that makes sense.
yeah.
Now, I know obviously people wondering you were on Spoken Label last year and we had a very quiet, shy Courtney there. And I still don't believe the difference we had from you last year. Because I remember you telling me when we looked at that podcast, you were so timid, weren't you, and
Yeah.
quiet. You're not now. You're not right.
Not
So
now, no. Everyone, the difference is just blows my mind.
no, you've had an amazing year this year, and I think next year's going to be more amazing. So I've refreshed my memory. Obviously, if I let you ask you that question, did you write much before all this happened with your grief?
I think as my writing was very patchy. I
Hmm.
think because I was still like up until all this grief stuff, I was very new to poetry. I was very new to the scene. So I was still trying to figure out my bearings, what meeting people and writing and exploring how I wanted to write and stuff. So it was very patchy, but I felt like since the grief, it helped me a lot to write. Like it helped me to process and it helped me to get it out on the page. So yeah, it kind
Yeah,
of saved my life,
I think writing does for all of us really when you first get going. I'm going to ask Amanda this for you to ask you this question, Courtney. I know a long time ago when you first properly started writing, it was a kind of trauma for you that first brought you writing out, really, wasn't it?
Not sure, really.
Well, I think
I've always done it in some shape or form.
I remember. Well, people wondering, Amanda's just had quite a major poem published about your late father, haven't you? And I
Yeah,
remember at the time. Tell us about that poem, because I think people should know about. I think it led you to where
yeah.
direction you're going now, actually.
It'll be 9 years in April when my dad died from cancer. And I think I just sort of got through it by writing loads of poems. And obviously they were like really depressing and morbid. And there was nothing that I felt I could get on stage and read without bursting into tears. Yeah. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. And then there was somebody that read a poem out about grandma, I think it was. And it was quite positive, and it was from like sort of missing them, but from a sort of more positive point of view. And I thought that's what I've been trying to do with my poems. And I went away and wrote this poem called Your First Christmas in Heaven, which was looking at all the things that my dad liked about Christmas. And about 8 years after I wrote it, I finally had it published.
I'll send you over that poem later on, Courtney, off camera, so that you should read it. It might give you some inspiration as well. So, right, Courtney, back to you then. So, who do you want to put on the spotlight next?
I think I'll go to Amanda again. So I'm gonna go ping pong with both of you. So it's fair. I'm not picking on either of you yet. Um, so the female character in your story, I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but because people should read the book. Read the book, it's awesome. What made you want that girl to have the journey she had?
I just kind of developed it as I went along. Recently, I've started like planning a bit more, but back then it's just I just sort of wrote her and then got everything written down and developed things when I went back and did the edit. So in some ways, it's just like the characters sort of developing themselves and just telling you who they are rather than me deciding who they are.
Good answer. Amanda, who do you want to speak to next?
Okay, so I'm going to ask Courtney, and it kind of follows on from one of the questions Andy asked earlier about grief and difficult topics. And did it help in any way when you was writing the poem? Sound like was it like therapeutic?
It actually was very therapeutic because sometimes I couldn't verbalize, right, to people how I was feeling. So writing it down was that way of me, processing, and it was very therapeutic. Like I don't know what I would have done if I didn't write it down. I don't know what I would have done because
Yeah.
for me, just writing it down, even sometimes get a paper, right, and write everything down, even if didn't turn into nothing. I would rip it up and throw it in a bin or burn it or something. You probably think, oh, why is she doing that? But it was
Oh,
kind of like that, like releasing the energy.
smack No, 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 seriously, I'm going to ask you an additional question on this before you let you move on. Was there any particular moment or a poem in this collection that unlocked the rest for you?
I think I think there was a few moments that happened, but I think I wrote a poem. Must have been in 2024. I can't remember. I can't remember which one it was. I know if I read my own manuscript, I'll remember, right? But it was in early 2024, and I wrote it. And I felt like some baggage was let off. I felt like 20 bricks was released from my bag, all that was gone, and it was just I felt such relief, yeah, and I felt like I had more space in my mind, and I just felt like, yeah, that's kind of how it felt like.
Oh,
So,
great. Good for you. Okay, over to you.
so I'm gonna ask Andy a question.
Oh dear.
You're gonna say that every time.
I do. I'm going to
Um,
keep saying oh dear. That's all.
so I know there's different themes in the book of your book, and one theme that hit me was about the section about the grief. For me, anyway, maybe because it's my own book that relates to that. I was just wondering, why did you want to give that message across?
A lot of the book itself for me, and I said the book itself started off with the train from Penance piece, then the one about Leeds, and both those who got picked up by Micromancer magazine, and they were both were quite miserable, really, romance book stories, and then I wrote the first one as well, and that was romance stories. A lot of them were. I think when you get to Christmas time, sometimes, and this the book itself is heading towards Christmas, and slowly, and each we get that time of year, a lot of it is reflection. I think they say Christmas time's for families, but I think, and I've had a lot of it myself. I've been by myself over years, and it made me always look at things in different ways, and that's what I was trying to do with this book. There is a lot of sadness in the book, but there's also hope in the book as well. And I know Courtney knows which story I'm talking about there, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just say the wedding dress story is quite comical, but it's also quite sad as well. So, but that's where it came from, really. There's a lot of grief in the book, but it's how you deal with the grief and then move on. It's not a case of making a big song and dance about it. You don't. You live with it. You have to move on. Right, my turn. No, I've got another question for Amanda. Are you ready, Amanda?
Ready?
Contender ready. Right, yeah, no, obviously, I'm going to talk about this one again, really, with comparing Death to All Men and this book itself. So I think there was a crossover when you wrote both of these and also Killing Tommy simultaneously. How do you manage to switch off from writing in one genre to another? And then the second part is, can you explain this to Courtney how you do it? Because I can't do it.
I think it helps in some way that I'm writing completely different things because then if you get writer's block for one project, it's like you might feel like writing on the other project and then vice versa. So I don't think there was any really times where I didn't feel like writing either of them. I was either in the mood to write one or the other.
But also with you don't just stick with those two either, do you? Because people know you nowadays, you're writing a lot about autism as well, and you
Yeah.
do lots of other bits and pieces, don't you?
Yeah, I'm always doing like little short pieces as well because when you're working on longer projects, it feels like, it's never going to be done. So if you do like the occasional short story or poem or article, at least then you've completed something.
So it makes sense. Over to you, Amanda.
Okay, so my question is for you, Andy. And I noticed there was a few bits in the stories. I don't think there's only one story that was just like autobiographical, but there
There's
was a few
several.
bit where there were. And
There's
I just
several.
thought, I know where he's got this bit from. And it's like, was that on purpose or was it just something that came into your head that you did write?
I'm going to be honest with this one straight away with it. There's one three-part story that came from a dream sequence when I bumped into an ex of mine. And I'll let you work out the story. There's two stories that are talking about directly about me. And there's a third one that's a dream sequence talking about a very wonderful young lady who probably will ban me from her wedding now. I say that when that happens. But I wrote it really over about a couple months, this book, and it was a story a week, really. And it was like, and then there was 2, 3 drafts on each story. So it flowed that now naturally, quite short, compact stories. Then while I was slowly working on my court novel. So there's a lot of autobiographical material in the book, but a lot of it is very subtly done as well. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. Now, my next question is, this is really organised, this. I'm going to ask both of you this question. Now, I know I'll ask Amanda this first, and I want Courtney to answer it as well. I know in Amanda's case, Manchester has proven over time to be a major point of setting for you in books. And I could trace that back to After the Zombies, first of all, when people wonder, we were on the radio yesterday, me and Amanda were seeing the wonderful Ruth O'Reilly, and Ruth brought it up about your After the Zombies book. And that was like the first book of yours I read. People wondered that's before we started dating. I was like, Manchester was a crunch point. Has setting always been important for you, Amanda? And then I want to ask Courtney the same question.
Yeah, I don't know why I've never written about Bradford before without being where I'm originally from. It's always been Manchester that's been a bit more inspiring.
Yeah, is that, I don't know, it's because you've done bits in Bradford, haven't you? But not lots.
I can't think of the top of my head. There might be something here and there, but nothing that I remember.
It's probably because it's more current emotions, I think, sometimes. Let me ask Courtney the same question. Courtney, does that apply to you at all? Because is setting important in everything you write?
Um, I think sometimes it does, depending on what you know. Because I've written pieces about certain places before, especially places I've been to, like Leicester. I've wrote about Leicester a little bit, London, but I think a lot of my book is about sometimes sometimes that is like coming back to yourself. I don't know if that makes sense. That's how I've perceived that as well sometimes, Sometimes I think coming back to myself, and I think that's what my book's about. So
Yeah, I think yours is different because, like, well, mine, I've been writing a lot more directly, certainly about East Manchester where we live, and my Amanda's done a lot in Manchester of it. But settings sometimes don't always have to be what you see around you; it can be inside you as well. And I've done it with my diabetic book, and I think that applies to you more. I think when you get the setting right, whether it's external or external, it's internal or external, it shows a sense of realism, and you've been honest with yourself and the reader. So,
Mhm.
Amanda, I'll let you ask another question now.
Okay, so my question is for Courtney, and it's about your writing process. Do you find it easy to sit down and just write a poem, or does the idea have to be in your head for you to want to write about it?
I say like 75% of the time, right, there's got to be an idea in my head or something that I can work off. It can't just come from nowhere. That's basically who I am. Something's got to light it up, basically. I think that's the right way to
The
put it. Like,
trigger, as
yeah,
I always
trigger.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen, me and Amanda have been to some workshops with you over the last couple of months with various people's workshops, and you've been very gracious in sending over your first drafts when you've been writing them in the workshop. And it's quite fascinating the way you do it, because it's like the building blocks, really. Do you find it like, well, you don't just tend to write the poem straight away, do you? You put lots of notes down, don't you? And I've seen it the way you write.
Yeah, sometimes like it's just notes, like even in my notebook. Sometimes even if I type it or write it or in a whatever way, like a lot of it is a thought process. Sometimes, occasionally, I can get a first draft of a poem, but it's a lot of the time it's yeah, notes like you said.
Yeah, I'm saying that. It's great because it's like you see, it shows a lot the way people's brains and minds think when you're writing sometimes. Amanda, I know in your case, I've done enough workshops you've run or been to them. You just tend to jump straight into it most of the time, don't you?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the workshop. I've been at some that I'm not going to name where I've just thought I can't get anything out of this.
Yeah.
And then I've been at others where I've just been like constantly writing and trying to get it done within the time. And then the person says time's up and I'm like, just got this sentence.
And you're thinking, drat. And I've seen it before you now, and Courtney, this is what she's like sometimes is. I've seen her where she gets today, tells me after the workshop, oh, I could have wrote another 1,000 words on that. And honestly, it's the way it goes sometimes. I've used it, I can use it. If I'm typing, I can usually get 3 times as much done. And that's what I love about people when you see Courtney's, you do everything by hand, don't you, when you're at workshops?
Yeah.
And I agree because I've tried that and it takes me forever because I'm a very slow handwriter. But no, it's brilliant stuff. So now I've actually lost count now where we were up to then. Whose turn is it?
I have no idea.
I'll tell you what, I'll ask another question then, okay? And that way then, see how we're all going then, okay? Now, I know obviously in Amanda's case, she does write in a lot of genres, and I want to learn about that more in a minute. I know you've dabbled in it, Courtney, because I've seen at least 2 fantasy stories that you've wrote, possibly
Yeah.
more. Now, I'm going to ask you the question first, Courtney, and I want Amanda to answer this as well. Is how does it compare for you writing in different genres, even if you're not going to do anything with it like your fantasy, and then going back to your poetry?
Um, I think I think you know what? Other people inspire me, right, to write this down, right? Because sometimes in some workshops I've been to, that's come up. And I've just sat down like I can't write poetry in this. Sometimes it's like literally like that. Like I've tried, for example, in the fantasy stuff, I couldn't write a poem about it. But yeah, if you gave me a short story, if someone said write a short story about it, it just came out. So I think for me, that's kind of how my brain went in terms of
Yeah.
different. Because yeah,
Yeah, Amanda, how does that apply to you? Have you ever started, for example, done a story and you've got halfway through and you're thinking, heck, I don't want to finish this story off in this genre?
Um, I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, there might be smaller projects, but there's no bigger books. I've stalled with the book that I'm writing at the moment, which doesn't have a title, but I know I'm going to go back to that. I haven't just like abandoned it because I'm over 40,000 words in. But there's just other stuff I want to write at the moment, and when I feel like writing that again, I will.
Yeah, no. I think it's probably good now. I've covered all my questions really. Before I ask next question, have either of you two got anything else you want to ask to anybody?
I was going to ask you, Andy, in your story collection, was there a particular story that you felt more difficult to write than others?
Yeah, some were horrible. Some were really horrible.
Yeah,
That's
that
fair.
sounds the book. Buy this book. Some of them are horrible.
Some of them were quite difficult to write, and that's been honest with you. I'm going to say it, the wedding dress story. That was the most difficult story to write, that was. Hi, Courtney. So I'm going to say that. Yeah, well, I'll say that one. That one was about Courtney, okay, right? And I was literally having palpitations, and I told you about that, Amanda. I said, if I read this out in front of Courtney, she might end up never speaking to me again.
But I saw that part of that was inspired by a certain thing that happened at my sister's wedding where you were supposed to make the veil fly up into the air, weren't you? And you just kind of ran over it.
Yeah, well, if you're wondering, Courtney, Amanda, you might as well out me what happened at your sister's wedding to give Courtney a laugh
I
because she
wasn't
doesn't know
there, but I
this.
heard about it afterwards. It was like the pictures where you have the couple and it looks like the wind is blowing the veil up into the air. So to get that effect, they wanted Andy to run along, sort of push it and then run off camera. And I think you almost tore it over head and you sort of ended up accidentally photobombing the picture, didn't you?
Yeah, I ran to the camera instead of away from it.
oh my God.
I was not particularly in their good books over that. I'll leave it at that. And there's also another picture, Courtney, where I guess this is why this story came from, really. Do you remember what the incident, Amanda?
No.
When you and your mum and Helen were walking down the aisle, and everybody was
Oh,
looking
yeah.
straight at Helen,
Yeah, because she's the
apart
bride,
from
obviously.
apart from me. Guess who I was looking at?
The bridesmaid.
And it shows quite clearly on the picture. Oops. So, and that's what happened there. But to answer your question, Amanda, that was the difficult story to write. It was really. There was a couple of them where there's one story in the book actually, one about Hula Hill. Is it 12 Candles of Christmas? I think it's called. I first did the first draft of that. I told you this, Courtney, the other day, actually. I did the first draft of this and I was about 14 at school. When I was getting towards the end of the book, I knew there was a story short, and I thought of that story again, and it fitted really well. So it's just, you never know books. They're funny things at the best of times. Courtney, have you got anything else you want to ask to either of us?
Um, I don't think so. I think all my questions are answered.
Yeah, I think, well, I want to learn a bit more then, obviously, about, to people wondering, obviously, we've been a writing podcast and much a spoken label today. I want us all to talk about our actual process of writing now, because I want to learn, Courtney, where do you normally write? Do you normally write at home, or do you write when you're out and around?
I normally write when I'm at home. But sometimes I'll say if an idea comes in my head, and then like say if I'm outside, I'll try and write it down somewhere, whether that's on my in my notepad because I'll carry one a lot, or on my phone. I'd quickly get notes up and I'll write a thought in my head. It's kind of like that. So if I think of anything else, or I'll go home and yeah, it's that's how I kind of write.
Yeah, Amanda, same question.
I have done it when I've been on the bus and I've just written whole chunks of a novel on my phone. But
Remember that
the
one?
last few, but it's mostly been at home just because I don't really go anywhere anymore.
In my case, is because I'm out and around all the time. It's usually most of mine started off when I'm on the train or a bus. So, and even if I've got my tablet with me, I write my tablets, but usually I have a little notebook in my pocket. So it's the same process, really. Now, lastly, obviously, before we plug what's coming up next and stuff, I want to ask Amanda next. Do you have a set time of the day where you tend to write more productively?
During the day, I think. But that's
Yeah,
because a certain person comes home and won't stop talking to me.
I don't know. That is Courtney. Is that you, is it? Oh, no, I know. Yeah. You also, before I ask Courtney the same question, I know Amanda's, people wonder Amanda, she can be up during the middle of the night sometimes. Do you write much during the early hours?
Yeah. Sometimes life wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't go back to sleep. And so something's bugging me, so I have to write it down. So that happens to me. They call it the witch's hour, right?
Yeah, true. Are you the same? Are you the same, Amanda, with that? Do you tend to write in the witching hour much?
I don't always write the full thing, but that's usually when I go onto my notebook app on my phone and I start putting ideas in. But sometimes I have so many ideas for lines that it's practically written itself, and then it's like, oh, I've almost got the poem here by accident.
You won't believe it, Courtney. Honestly, sometimes I get up 6:30 in the morning, and it has happened a few times. This, and man, I wrote a poem during the night, and I'm looking at 3/4 asleep, thinking, "How do you do it?" And it's really
I know
perfectly formed as
there was
well.
one recently one that I wrote, I think in a day, called "This Is Not My Brother's Autism," and I thought I'd finished it, and it didn't feel right, and then I went back to it in the early hours of the morning, and when I got back into bed, I was like, "Oh, I finished off that poem." You're like, "What poem?" I thought it
Yeah,
was finished.
yeah, that's what I got at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, but my case, usually I tend to allot mine till like some even traveling. But Amanda's and me, our sleep patterns are different to some degree. So I can try and do good hours of writing every night, say 9 o'clock. But what I do a lot at the moment is because of the job I'm at, I'm usually in work for about 25 past 8, half an hour early. So I'll try and spend half an hour writing every day. So it works. So right, so that being the case, that's all my questions today, people. Let's do the plugs. Courtney, when is the provisional date for your debut poetry collection out?
Spring 2026.
Follow that space now. For people to find out more about you, where do you recommend people go, Courtney?
I've got on Instagram. It is Courts_Ward. So that's probably the best place to find me.
Yeah, and
Um,
also look out for your OnlyFans page as well. There isn't one, right? I think.
No, ignore him. I don't have nothing like that. Don't worry.
Amanda, where do you recommend people go? Seriously.
I'm on Substack a lot. I've got the I Am Not Calm page, which is about autism, and then we've got No Right Way about writing, and the Review Cave about films and TV. So depending on what you want to read about, really.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Spoken Labels podcast is available on all the usual mediums. You can easily find it if you look round. Best place for me is I do a Substack page as well, and that's Andy N Artist at substack.com. I'm also on Instagram as Andy N Poet, Facebook as Andy N, and lots of other bloody places. New book, Fred's and Other Stories of Isolation, is on Amazon, and it's slowly creeping out to other networks as well as A.E. Nicholson. Amanda, what is your new book called? Just to
It's
refresh
called
people.
Beneath the Lines, and it's Alicia Nicholls. It's available to pre-order on Amazon and Waterstone's website, all the ebooks, and it's officially out on the 3rd of November.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again, Courtney, and putting up with my bad jokes today. And thank you as well, Amanda, just putting up with me half the time, right?
Yeah.
Right, Amanda, take us out.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Courtney, take us out as well. I'm going to be double crew.
Bye.
See you all soon, folks. Take care.
The Writing Way with Amanda Nicholson and Andy N.
The Writing Way with Amanda Nicholson and Andy N.
Spoken Way.